The park was a patch of quiet stitched into the bustle of Brookhaven, Georgia, a small town with bigger stories than most folks wanted to admit. On the edge of town, behind the post office and across from a faded laundromat, the park hummed with a kind of Sunday stillness, even though it was only Friday. School had let out early. The air was warm and sticky sweet, heavy with honeysuckle and the scent of creosote from the nearby railroad ties. Lily Moreno stepped onto the path with her usual limp step gait, her canvas tote bouncing lightly against her side. She wore her long-sleeved hoodie despite the heat, sleeves pulled past her wrist. Only one sleeve was filled out, the other hung empty at the elbow, pinned neat and folded once. Her face, partially shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, bore the marks of an old trauma, the right side drawn and puckered from burn scars that had long since healed, though people rarely seemed to treat it that way. She didn't mind the staring, not anymore. What stung were the looks people tried not to give, that studied avoidance, the effort to act casual, as if she couldn't see right through it. Lily made for the oak tree near the far edge of the park, her tree. She liked it because it leaned, like it knew something about imbalance and kept standing anyway. She settled cross-legged in the grass, the bark at her back, and pulled out her sketchbook. Today it was a wind-powered turbine she was working on, something small enough to mount on the roof of her uncle's shed. She was halfway through detailing the gear assembly when she heard them, the bikers. She knew the sound of their laughter, sharp, wet, exaggerated, like they wanted the whole town to know they were having a good time. Ray was the loudest. He always was. She recognized him from the hardware store, the gas station, the street corners where he leaned too close to women who didn't ask for attention. He was standing near the water fountain, legs spread, leather vest half unzipped. The two guys flanking him were leaner, quieter, but not enough to matter. "You seen that girl yet?" Ray barked, not bothering to lower his voice. "Looks like someone mashed up a doll and forgot the rest." A pause. Then laughter, forced and sharp like clinking glass. Lily didn't look up. Not right away. On a bench 30 feet away, a man in a navy baseball cap turned a page of his paperback, eyes scanning slowly. He sat with his legs stretched out, one hand resting loosely on his knee. No one paid him much attention. That was the point. He watched Ray laugh. Watched Lily not flinch. Watched the moment coil. Ray had a way of speaking that peeled the air. He didn't need to shout. He just pitched his words so they rode the wind to every corner of the park. And today, he was hunting for an audience. She got a name tag on that arm. He called out, pointing with his beer can toward Lily's side. Bet she could slap someone and not even feel it. Hell, might fall over just trying. Laughter again. The wrong kind. The kind that didn't come from real amusement, but from men who needed to be louder than their doubt. Lily looked up this time. Slowly. Her eyes met his. She didn't scowl or flinch. She just looked. And that was worse for Ray than any insult. "Hey, sweetheart," he added, stepping closer with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You building something with that sketchbook?" "A new arm, maybe. Make it look like a real one this time." One of his buddies chuckled, but the other shifted his feet. The crowd was thin, two families over by the swings, a teenage couple with earbuds on the bench, an older woman walking her dog, but everyone heard it. They just didn't move. They never did. The world had gotten good at performing discomfort, at pretending the loud wasn't happening. Lily held her pencil still over the page, her eyes back on her drawing. Her face was unreadable, not because she didn't feel anything, but because she couldn't afford to. Ray stepped closer, enough that she could smell the mix of beer and motor oil. "You deaf too?" he said. "Or just rude?" She said nothing. Didn't look up again. Not because she was scared, because she had already made her choice. She wasn't going to perform for him. That silence? That was her answer. But Ray wasn't the kind of man who respected silence. He needed a reaction to feel real. So he leaned down and tapped the edge of her sketchbook with the toe of his boot. "Hey," he barked, louder now. "I'm talking to you, you little, back up." It was quiet, measured. A voice from just beyond the moment. Ray turned. The man in the navy cap was standing now. No grand posture, no swagger. Just stillness and eyes like stone. Ray blinked. "You what?" "I said," the man repeated, stepping off the path with unhurried calm, "back up." For a second, nobody spoke. Even the trees seemed to hush. And Lily? She looked up, not at Ray, but at the man standing now between her and the noise. And for the first time that day, her breath came easy. Ray's head tilted, slow and suspicious, like a dog hearing something it didn't understand. "You were dad or something?" he asked, but his voice had dropped half a step, not fearful, just uncertain. The guy in the cap didn't answer. He just stood there, a paperback still curled lightly in one hand, thumb holding his place like he meant to return to it. Lily's pencil had slipped between the pages of her sketchbook. She left it there, her hands resting loosely in her lap. She was watching now, not the way someone waits to be rescued, but the way someone watches a structure creak, curious if it's about to collapse. Ray's friends had gone quiet. One shifted back, enough to signal his limit. The other just stared, chewing the inside of his cheek, arms crossed tighter than before. The man took a step forward, not aggressive, not big, but it shifted the center of gravity. He stood with the ease of someone used to being underestimated. His voice, when it came again, was almost kind. "You get something out of this?" he asked Ray. "Mocking a kid?" "She ain't a kid," Ray snapped back, but it landed softer than he meant it to. "She's out here by herself, looking like that. Don't give me attitude for noticing." "You weren't noticing," the man said, still calm. "You were performing. There's a difference." The words dropped like coins in a jar, unexpected, but precise. Lily's eyes widened slightly. That word, performing. It was exactly right. Ray had been staging cruelty like a show, banking on laughter to make it acceptable. Ray's jaw twitched. "Who the hell do you think you are?" That's when it happened, the smallest flicker of recognition. A dad over by the swing set squinted. A teenage boy whispered something to his girlfriend. The woman with the dog stopped mid-stride. Ray didn't catch it yet, but the crowd did. The man in the cap met Ray's glare. "I'm someone who doesn't walk away from this kind of garbage." His voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't laced with threat. It was clean, final, like a door closing. Ray puffed up, trying to recapture the high ground. "You got no business telling me how to talk." "No," the man said. "I've got no business letting you keep talking." That was the pivot. The moment the balance tipped, Ray took one half step forward, enough to make a statement, not enough to commit. The man didn't move, just stood, posture loose but centered, as if he'd been here 100 times before. And behind him, Lily stood up, quietly, deliberately, her sketchbook still open in one hand, her hat pulled low but not low enough to hide the focus in her eyes. The moment hadn't ended. It had just changed hands. Ray looked around, as if realizing too late that the script wasn't his anymore. His voice, when it came, was louder than before, but not stronger. "You think you're gonna make me look stupid? In front of everybody?" "No," the man said. "You're doing that just fine on your own." A few people stifled laughs. Not loud, but audible. And Ray felt it, the shift. It wasn't the insult that stung. It was the fact that he couldn't find the next line. The rhythm he'd counted on, the crowd playing along, Lily shrinking, had broken. "You talk real big," Ray snapped. "You throw in hands, tough guy?" Stillness. "Then, why would I fight you?" The man's tone was mild. "You're not dangerous. Just loud." Ray took another step forward, fists flexing at his sides. "You got no clue who I am." "I don't need to," the man said, his voice steady. "I already know what you are." Now the park was listening. The air had gone tight. Even the dog walker had stopped mid-stride. Ray scoffed, but it was hollow. "Big man. Thinks he's better than everyone." The man nodded once. "No. I just know the difference between being strong and being cruel. You came after a kid. You mocked her because you thought no one would stop you. That's not power. That's fear wearing a leather vest." The words landed sharp and deliberate. Ray flinched, barely perceptible, but real. A piece of his bravado peeled off. He looked to his friends, but neither moved. They were spectators now. The man went on, voice quieter now, like he was speaking past Ray. "I was 10 the first time I saw someone get laughed at for being different. A girl in my class had a speech issue, stuttered so bad, she'd barely get through a sentence. One day a couple of boys made fun of her in front of the whole gym. Everyone laughed, except one person." He looked at Lily. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She just stood there, looked them in the eye, and said, "You only laugh when you're scared of being seen." Ray blinked. "I never forgot that," the man said. "Because she wasn't weak. The people laughing were." The quiet that followed was dense, like fog. And then Ray did what men like him always do when the room stops clapping for them. He tried to raise the volume. "You preaching now?" he sneered. "Think this some kind of movie?" The man tilted his head. No. This is a park. Full of kids. And parents. And people who saw you pick the smallest target you could find. He paused. And now you're upset because someone picked your pride. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Lily stepped forward, beside him, not behind, not shielded. Her voice, when it came, was quiet. But it cut through everything. I'm not the one who needs fixing. Lily's words hung in the air, light in volume, but heavy in weight. Ray turned to her, something like confusion crawling across his face. He opened his mouth, maybe to insult, maybe to defend, but nothing came out. She didn't look away. She didn't blink. I'm not the one who needs fixing, she repeated, this time for the crowd. Her voice had a calm sharpness, not rehearsed but earned. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. The truth had its own volume. The man beside her, still not named aloud, still just a presence, stepped half a pace back, giving her the space she'd just claimed. It was subtle, intentional, and the respect in the gesture wasn't missed. Ray stepped back, the weight of his bluster sagging under him. He looked smaller now, not physically, but in the way a stage looks after the curtain falls. His friends were watching him the way people watch a campfire that's gone cold. They weren't laughing anymore. A man from the swings cleared his throat. Then, quietly, "Time to go, Ray." Ray turned sharply, but the energy he threw out didn't stick. It slipped off the silence like oil on water. "You all serious?" he muttered, scanning the onlookers. She's, but the sentence died halfway out. There was no script left that would save him. He looked back at Lily, and this time, something behind his eyes flickered. Not apology, not remorse. Just the sudden, bitter knowledge that she was stronger than him, and always had been. He muttered something under his breath, turned, and walked away. His boots crunched on gravel that seemed too loud now. His friends followed, neither saying a word. The moment didn't end with cheering. It ended with breathing. The collective exhale of a crowd that had realized it had been holding its breath. Lily stood still, heart thrumming like a low drumbeat. She didn't look around. She didn't need validation. Her strength wasn't a performance. It was architecture, built, brick by brick, through days like this and worse. The man beside her looked at her now, not with admiration, but with acknowledgement, like he had seen a kindred understanding in the way she carried herself. "You handled that," he said quietly. Lily nodded once. "So did you." He gave a small smile, not performative, not indulgent. Just real. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said. Then, after a pause, "But you should probably tell people who you are before someone tries to punch you." He laughed, low and surprised. "You think that stops them?" She cracked the smallest smile, and it mattered because it was earned. The crowd began to shift, as crowds do once the tension bleeds out. A mother pulled her child gently toward the playground. The couple on the bench stood, murmuring softly. A dog barked in the distance, as if signaling the world was turning again. But Lily didn't move. She stood exactly where she had been, not frozen, not stunned, just present in a way that few people ever managed. Her hands were relaxed at her sides now, sketchbook closed but not forgotten. She looked around, not for approval, not to see who had been watching, but to remind the space that she was still in it. Still standing. The man turned toward her again, softer now. "You want to sit?" he asked. Lily looked at the bench he gestured to, shaded, quiet, just far enough from where the noise had happened. She considered it, then nodded. They sat without speaking at first. The bench creaked beneath their weight. Birds chirped overhead. It was ordinary again. "That was brave," he said, eventually. Lily didn't answer right away. She looked down at her sleeve, the folded one, and picked at a loose thread near the seam. "People always say that," she said finally, "but I don't feel brave. I just feel tired of pretending." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's what bravery really is sometimes. Just not pretending." They sat for another long stretch of silence. Then Lily glanced at him sideways. "You're John Cena," she said. He smiled faintly, no surprise in his expression. "You figured that out, huh?" "Not from your face," she replied. "From how quiet you were." That made him laugh, a low, honest sound. "Most people spot the other stuff first." Lily shrugged. "The other stuff's loud." He nodded. "Yeah, it is." Another pause. "You knew he might try to fight you," she said. "Yeah, but you didn't want to fight." "No." "Why?" He looked at her then, Not like a celebrity, not like a grown-up explaining something to a kid, but like a person answering another person's question. Because he wanted that, John said. And some people only know how to feel big when they make someone else feel small. I wasn't going to give him what he came for. Lily nodded slowly. She understood that, deep in the bone. She picked her sketchbook up from beside the bench, flipping to a clean page. "What are you drawing?" he asked. She didn't answer. Not yet. Her pencil scratched softly, lines forming from memory, not imagination. When she finished, she turned the book so he could see. A tree, thick and leaning, roots deep and branches outstretched, wind turbines behind it spinning gently. "It's not a weapon," she said. "It's something that turns wind into power." John looked at her, then back at the page. "That's exactly what you did," he said. The ripple effect took time, as it always does when silence breaks and people remember their voices. It started with a boy, maybe 15, in a faded Hawks jersey. He stepped toward Lily and John, hesitated, then said, "Hey, that was cool." He didn't linger, just gave a nod and jogged off, face flushed. But it was enough. Next came the mother from the swing set, her toddler in one arm. "You okay, sweetie?" she asked Lily, with the tone of someone who meant it. Lily nodded. The woman looked at John and her eyes softened. "Thank you." He said nothing, just nodded once. Others followed, quiet acknowledgments, not a scene, but a gathering of presence. People who had watched and said nothing were now trying to unbecome the silence. A man in a flannel shirt muttered "damn shame" under his breath and offered Lily a bottled water. A teenage girl took a photo, not of John, but of the tree Lily had stood in front of. Ray and his crew were long gone. No one followed. No one missed them. A local officer who had been sitting in a patrol car across the street ambled over, slow and casual. He'd seen the end, maybe more. He didn't ask questions, didn't take statements. Just looked at John, gave a half-smile, and said, "Good way to de-escalate." "Didn't have to be a fight," John replied. "Most don't," the officer said. Then, quietly, "Glad it wasn't." As he walked off, a couple from a nearby bakery offered Lily a cinnamon roll on the house. She declined, polite but firm. "I'm not hungry," she said. "I'm okay." She was. Not because someone had stepped in, but because someone had stepped aside at just the right moment and let her take back something no one should have tried to take in the first place, her place in the world, unguarded and unapologetic. John rose from the bench, brushing his hands on his jeans. Lily stood too, sketchbook under her arm. "You need a ride?" he asked. She shook her head. "My aunt's picking me up. I'm supposed to call her when I'm done drawing." He smiled. "Guess you are now." She nodded, pulled out her phone. As she tapped the screen, she looked up at him one more time. "Thanks," she said. "For what?" "For not making it about you." He met her eyes, and there, in that glance, was a rare kind of mutual understanding, strength without noise, power without performance. Then she turned, walking back toward the street. "And John?" He sat back down, reopened his book, and faded again into the space, just a man reading under an oak tree, where nothing had changed, but everything had shifted. By the time Lily reached the parking lot, the park had returned to its usual rhythm. Children chased Bubbles. A jogger passed with earbuds in. The dog walker finally resumed her loop. But underneath the normal, something softer had taken root, a kind of reverence for what had been said and what hadn't needed saying. Lily stood by the curb, her phone still in hand, watching a breeze push through the trees. She traced her thumb over the edge of her sketchbook. Not for comfort, for anchoring. There was power in holding something you made, something no one could take away. Her aunt's car turned the corner a few minutes later, the familiar gray sedan with a cracked windshield decal and gospel music humming faintly behind the glass. Lily opened the door, slid in. "Good drawing day?" her aunt asked, eyes flicking to her with habitual worry. "Yeah," Lily said. "It was good." She didn't say what happened. She didn't need to. Her aunt watched her for another beat, then nodded, backing out of the space. As they pulled away, Lily looked one last time at the oak tree. John was still there. Still reading. Still not asking for attention. He left a short while later, when the sun had tilted low enough to touch the swing sets with gold. No fanfare, no handshakes. He walked the path alone, cap low, book tucked under his arm. No one followed him. But his presence lingered, not like a shadow, but like a shift in the weight of the air. That night, a few words made their way through Brookhaven, A biker got told off by someone. By a stranger, a man who didn't raise a fist but still silenced a bully. Some said it was John Cena. Others weren't sure. The stories were vague, messy with retellings. But one detail never changed. The girl didn't back down. And that was the part that mattered. In her bedroom, Lily taped a new page into her wall collage, a tree beside a gear turbine, sketched in graphite and quiet resolve. She didn't write anything beneath it. She didn't need to. Some things were loud enough without words.